Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. A very warm welcome and Ramadan Kareem to everybody. And we're doing the show on love reading. So just because it's Ramadan time, we read the Quran, but it would be lovely because we have more time, hopefully, is to start introducing ourselves and to be reading all around our faith, our deen, to learn something. So today, for the very first book I wish to share with you, and more than the book, I wish to share about the author as well, is a book called Islam, the Natural Way. It first came out in 1989, and then it's been printed plenty of times in many languages. It's gone through several languages, German, Dutch, Indonesian, Turkish, Urdu. So what's beautiful about this book, Islam, the Natural Way, and it's by Abdul Wahid Hamid. He was originally from Trinidad, if I'm not mistaken, but I've known him as an author from England. So that was, if I'm not mistaken, his very first book. Then he's followed it up with many more. But I'd like to go through Islam, the Natural Way, because here we are in Ramadan. We're starting. Those of us who are born in it, we know we do it naturally every year and so on. But it's also good to always look at books around our faith to get a deeper understanding of what and how, why we do what we do. So I'm just going to share a few of his chapters, and how it starts is about our condition, about what is in face to face with reality, first of all, then our condition, then our livelihood and our family and our neighborhood and a wider community. And all this links with what Ramadan is all about also about akhlaq, about how do we behave at all these levels with ourselves, how we are with ourselves. Do we hate ourselves? Do we love ourselves? Do we become narcissistic or whatever? And so on. So with your neighborhood, with the wider community, and the universal ummah, and face to face with other faiths, and how we need to be with them. Are we going to be dogmatic? Are we going to be arrogant? So all these kind of things he touches on and brings up, and also the global issues. And we know what's going on the global level. So inshallah, when we touch there, we're going to look at the idea of justice, how deep justice is ingrained as one of the key aspects of our ethos in our faith, and then the hereafter also. So these are just, I've given you the content page of what it goes through. How this helps us is maybe what really in these days of crises, we really want to look, how do we cope with other faiths? How do we interact with them? What do we tell them? What do we do? And looking at global issues, where do we bring universal values back? Freedom from hunger, freedom from fear, education, intellect. And we can see that, how with the algorithms on social media, how whatever we say, somehow they want to retweak it. You can see these counters going around, and they want to push out our narrative and keep another one. So those are the kind of things he touches upon. When he wrote it initially, there wasn't any social media. But the beautiful thing about Brother Abdul Wahid Hamid, as an author, he writes simply, beautifully for the layman. So I would love this, and it is now become a kind of a standard textbook in the West at least, but also, for those of us who've grown up, who've had our children go to madrasas, and we've got akhlaq books, our fiqh books and everything, but this encompasses beautifully. So for university students, for elders who have, like now, we do things ritualistically, but if we want to know what is the basis? So let me look at the arguments about it, because even at the very first one about worldviews, it goes through maybe the whatever it was, the communists, this view, that view, this ideology, that ideology. But the most important quality, and it comes back time and again across the board, wherever you do, that it is our connection with our Creator that is the most important, and that namely having that taqwa. And the taqwa links very well with, it's through the taqwa that enables us to do our fasting, and it's through the taqwa that there's a beautiful ayah in Surah Dhariyat which says, if you are a muttaqi, it leads you to being a muhsin. And the muhsin character is what it is about. We're not just, it is about us. It is about us earning our Jannah. That's why we're doing what we're doing. But hand in hand is you show your respect for the creator by serving his creation. And in this book, how it talks about that the Islam being a natural way, it really sort of, it resonates for us. Why is it so many people that when they read a tiny bit of the Quran or a tiny bit of what they're seeing, what happens in Palestine, and the firm conviction, yaqeen that the people have, it just brings them to Islam. So what I love, just the title of it is The Natural Way. Now we're into naturopathy, now we're into everything natural, and it comes to you easily and so on. So those sort of aspects for me resonated at a university level. That's when I first came across it, is how beautiful it is, and it's a beautiful reference book. At the tail end, what we have further readings to do with all these books, so kind of like a bibliography or the references he uses for each chapter. He gives them down, breaks them down with the chapter. Whether it's to do with the Quran, whether it's to do with reality, hadith, and so on, seerah. So that's beautiful as a reference point. And when we're studying, it's good to have references. It's no point just, oh, I heard it on YouTube, I heard it on this. No, try and be a bit more referenced as a person. And in our Quran, like, just in reading the Quran, we need to know where Yasin is, what, this ayah comes there and this ayah comes there. It's all beautiful to know. So as in Ramadan, one of my key always wanting to do as a goal is try and find in each surah while you're reading something that really resonates for you in surah, and try and memorize that. So that there too, I'm just digressing. But in all that, that's the beauty of this book. The beautiful passages I'd like to just pick up in this book is about, this is where I first discovered the Islamic marriage sermon. And the two things, because our marriages and our nikahs are so short, and this comes under the you and your family, and the first ayah that's often quoted in a khutbah for marriage, because our marriage is so simple. It's asking him, do you agree to her, and do you agree to him, kind of, with her wakil and with her wali being there. But what they read usually is that very first ayah of Surah Nisa, which is Ya ayyuhan nasu ttaqu rabbakum allazi khalaqakum min nafsin wahidat, to show you that we all mankind have come from the single source. And then the second one they quote is from Surah 33 and 71. So these are, I'm just sort of enticing you to have a look, that this is a beautiful book to be looking at. Sometimes he puts it in, in a box kind of thing, that this is what he's highlighting of how it should be, of haya and other things. And then on to neighbors. So back to the idea of, akhlaq is so important. It's no point me being just hoarding my thing, having my fancy iftar in my home and the next door. So what he goes on to give as a list, which is there in the ahadith, it is there, all these things, but he encapsulates it. And what he says is that the right of a neighbor is that help him if he asks for help, give him relief if he seeks your relief, lend him if he needs a loan, show him concern if he's distressed, nurse him when he's ill, and attend his funeral when he dies, congratulate him if he comes with any good. That's something, many of us maybe, why did he get it, why didn't I get it? So these are all the akhlaqiyat that need to be surfacing. Sympathize with him if there's any calamity that befalls him. Do not block this is, I found fascinating, his air or his sunshine by raising your building so high without his permission, and don't harass him. So these are kind of things. And we have what we call passive aggressive these days, about, oh, I didn't do anything, but just your whole everything comes up. The other aspect that comes under his you and your wider community, which he picks up, is on justice, is perhaps the most important supreme value in Islam. And in fact, it is, in early on in Surah Baqarah, it talks about bringing justice and all those values which are universal. So we take them on, hopefully in a stricter way, but you appeal to a non-Muslim first on values which he can relate to. So that's the kind of thing he brings in. And And then also the idea of free speech and restraint. So you have the ability, you can say what you like. You're not supposed to be oppressed and, suppressed on what they're doing now on social media. Our voice is out of the picture and, something else is on. So anyway, he gives a beautiful little piece of from while making his usual rounds in the city, the Khalifa Umar ibn Aziz, accompanied by policemen, entered a mosque. And in the darkness, they came across a person sleeping, and they crossed him, and so he woke up. They tripped up, and so maybe he tripped over them. So then he shouted, he said, are you mad? So Umar ibn Aziz, Abdul Aziz said, no. So the policeman was about to beat up the man for being rude and all the rest. And he said, no, don't. He just asked me, are you mad? And I answered, no. End of the story. So that beautiful thing about akhlaq, that we mustn't personalize everything. If somebody said something, I loved it. Somebody taught me, dodge the bullet. Dodge the bullet. Don't let it land if it doesn't fit on you and it isn't true. So why do you but that's what he thinks. No, don't worry about it. So I found this beautiful from this book about taking in the natural way. We just let things go, what don't concern us also. So on injustice also, it's talking about if anybody walks with an oppressor to strengthen him, knowing that he's the oppressor, he's gone far from Islam. So this idea of asabiya, of tribalism, racism, nationalism, everything means helping your people even in unjust causes. So that's also very interesting, very relevant to today. What happens? No, for my ego, for my tribe, for my whatever. So one who he is not from us who proclaims the cause of asabiya. So this comes in a hadith. So it's beautiful how every now and then you come across a hadith, and so you don't have to go through the whole book of hadith to find the hadith you're looking for. But here often he does bring it up. So that's what I loved about it, and it's just a whole beautiful book. At the end, it talks to you what it's about. It has some what people say about it. The other thing I'd like to mention, because I know him as an author, as a friend also, Abdul Wahid Hamid. People who walk their talk, the people who are humble. And that's what this author epitomizes. He wrote some other books after that. Burnishing the Heart is a beautiful book of many Quranic passages to uplift you. Before that, he wrote something called Access to Quranic Arabic, and it's like a textbook, a workbook, a textbook, and and a grammar book. And I loved it because it was geared for the English speaking, so it didn't go into Rafa Nasab Jar, the grammar rules of Nahu and Sarf with the names, but he gave that all with English equivalent, the nominative, the accusative, the genitive, and that whether it's a jussive form or this form. So I love that book. That was like my first intro to Arabic, and it was easy. Eventually you get on and you need to learn Arabic from the Arabic source, but it's also what, these are languages which you need to have full immersion. Not every language has to. You can't sort of do it once over 4 years just to learn the basics of a language. It has to be a full immersion. So in that too, I think all of there were 40 chapters of grammar, then so many passages, equal workbook to go with it. So it was very well devised. In fact, his eyesight was nearly lost because of, in those days there was no referencing. You could do Google and just find the right appropriate ayah for that piece of grammar. So that's one of his beautifulest book, and the other one is The Companions of the Prophet. It was in a series of 3, then it came down in a series of 2. And what was beautiful about that too, for young people, again, beautifully written in simple English, appealing to our better nature of look at this. In the first, obviously, was the more important Sahabis, and then the next, I don't have it right now with me, but I know all of these books So what I'm suggesting to you is that anything that comes out from Mel's publication, which means Muslim Educational, let me see if I can get the name right. It's Muslim Education and Literary Services. So that's his own publication, and whatever he's brought out from there have been beautiful. So I'd like to give you the author. If you see this author, well worth reading it. And so some of these books which I was able to share now. Then also, in this case, it's Mel's publication. And so anything you come from there is solid, authentic Muslim. Inshallah, as I go through other books, I would like to bring you their publishers too. Sometimes it's not necessarily a Muslim publication done from there, but nonetheless, but whenever it is, it's useful. So that's where I'd like to just take you as on a, like on a first early days of Ramadan, go through what the Islam, the natural. Let's just reconnect with our faith, what it is about, why we do. We know it's Ramadan and we do all those things, but just reading these basic books, this is where I want to take you through some. They're not difficult reading, and it will be easy to just reconnect and develop the love for reading. So that's where I'll just stop it, and I pray whatever has been shared about it, I hope you get the passion I have for reading and for books. So I'm just sharing the beautiful books which I've come across and which I feel just strengthen our iman and make our Ramadan even more beautiful. So with that, it's wa akhiru dawahum and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.